All right, today we're having Femi Dada, who was someone who helped us with our IT cybersecurity setup as I started this new business. And what I'm doing this upcoming year is to highlight and spotlight a couple of the vendors that really helped me out to get things established. And I'm pretty happy that Femi is willing to come here and to talk a little bit about himself, his company, what he's done. Thanks for coming, Femi.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for having me. I really think it's a really wonderful opportunity to be here. And as you mentioned, what you're trying to do, focus on local vendors that has helped in standing up everything. I think that's really impressive, and thank for the opportunity. I just can't imagine and even how it is now, because seeing when everything was just drywall and all this stuff,
you were there at the beginning.
Yeah. So now that everything is kind of in place and you guys are ready to to do some amazing stuff, I'm just really excited to be part of you guys' success.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I remember you walked with us as we're going through things, and it was just so great that you knew sort of what the network needs are, and you're able to look at all the existing stuff from the old space, and you helped me just kind of see if what I can reuse or not reuse. It's just helpful to have you there, so it was cool.
No, I mean, it's typically like that, especially at the very early stage. A lot of companies, when they reach out to us, and you don't really know what it's like everything is kind of, you're not really sure, but I don't know all the construction detail, but I just know that, okay, this location is going to be good for this is going to be good for this here, like that. So I'm really glad everything is,
Very cool. Yeah, here we are. So I guess a couple of, things we want to ask. So, I mean, we've known each other for a long time. I mean, how long? Like what?
Wow,
I really remember what year.
I was, just in thinking about this, it's at least 19 years.
19.
I had to do some calculation because I know my daughter was little at that time, and I remember back in those days, really, we were just starting off, and my daughter was like 4 years old, maybe 6 years old, and so I had to do some calculation, like, okay, but 19 years. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I remember as I was working, I just remembered one time, I met together at church, and we discovered that you wrote a book and all this stuff. I'm like, oh, this is cool. This is really interesting. And I had no interest in cybersecurity. I was just a regular employee, just kind of following the rules. And here you are writing a book. I was like, oh, it's pretty cool. So so we've known each other for a while, and I think for me personally, trust was a big factor. Having someone set up the network, setting up the computer systems for me, and choosing a vendor. I had to choose someone I personally trusted, and I was just so glad we got to connect and set things up together like that.
That couldn't even be said any better. At the end of the day, right, people do business with people they like and they trust, and it's all about trust. And for me, on a personal level, when you tap me and ask me, about this, I literally had I had some mixed feeling too, because I'm like, okay, oh my gosh, I know Steve for this long, and this, but then at the same time, I kind of understand, it kind of now settle in and say, who can he trust, and I know that definitely if, given the opportunity, it's not really about, it's not really about all the money and all the stuff, it's more about really trying to really do the best I can, and also just living out my own personal life goal, which is really just to help people reach their full potential, So, and that's kind of how I've always tried to do things, to just kind of do my best and give them their best shot to get to wherever they're trying to go. So, really, it's really an honor, and to to be part of what you guys are
Yeah, you
doing.
definitely helped me do that this past year. It's a crazy year for me, so I really appreciate your work and all that. So those who don't know, Femi, he owns his own cybersecurity IT business, and about this book, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about this book and why you wrote it, and just a little bit more about your business.
So, whenever people ask me about, business and how I started, literally, I just look at, the business started as, it's almost like it came out of a life situation, I was young, we were all young, trying to figure out, how to live. And at some point, I couldn't really actually I didn't have a work permit and things like that. So I decided to just go out on my own. And a lot of people ask me, how did you start? When was the right time? How did you know? But it was just a gut feeling and just knowing that, what, I can, help other businesses and started out. So after many years in the business, 6 years later, I wrote a book, and it's like,
Impressive.
Easy Pray, Easy Pray, and you're going to get one today.
Awesome.
So the book, Easy Pray, how to protect your business and prevent cyber criminals and prevent employee fraud and things like that. It's simple, very easy to read book. And in there, in the chapters, we covered almost 13 topics. And basically, it's for small business owners that are looking to run their business in a secure fashion. Not only security, but also some of the things that they need to have in place from an IT standpoint to really make sure that they are well equipped to deal with the current day-to-day things, including cyber. Because, in fact, it's been almost 4 years now, right? And basically, the things have changed so fast, that I think I need a second edition,
That'd be cool.
Right? Because so at the end of the day, for a business owner that is thinking of how to protect their intellectual property, how to protect their business from cyber criminals, and how to make sure that things are set up right, this will be something that they can read and be aware of those things, so that by the time they engage in vendors or doing all kind of other things, they at least have a mindset of, oh, you know what, and what, even if things are not working, they can at least look at and say, okay, this is ideas and things that they can implement. So that's pretty much what the book is about. It's very easy to read, and I'm very humbled to. I remember when I did a book signing, and like I didn't even, what is it to be, an author, but later, then I received, that it actually hit the Amazon bestsellers list.
That's amazing.
So it's my little fame to,
What year did that come out?
Yeah, this came out in 2018.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
2018. And we launched it on Amazon, and it did well with some of my other colleagues in the industry. So we covered several topics that is really, really ideal for businesses.
Very cool. That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's so cool. And I remembered when I approached you, sort of in secret, that I was thinking of starting a new business, and I remember you were surprised that I asked you, even though I didn't have anything, no operation or whatever. And maybe for everyone's benefit in this channel, like, why were you so surprised?
I actually didn't realize that I was surprised at that time until you brought it up and said, why are you so surprised? Because then I thought about it now. Yeah, I was indeed surprised. Why? Because a lot of times business owners don't walk around before they start their business asking about the things that you were asking about in terms of security, what you need to have. I remember that it was more like you asked me, what is like managed service? And I'm like, asking about managed service, that's really, just a little different. So I was surprised in that regard. But then later on, when you said you were thinking about starting a business, So my surprise came from the fact that majority of the times, 99.9%, maybe even 1%, business will already have started before they're asking about IT or security. So having to ask that right before, in the get-go, even before you know, put even before even getting started. Now, when I think about it, it just really, it really shows how much you value, the technology and the things that you guys needed to do, and having that in the forefront, it makes sense now. Because a lot of times in the security space, we always talk about, built-in technology or built-in security as opposed to bolt-on. Whereas, and what I mean by that is that, security needs to be like built into the whole process, into everything, instead of adding security after the fact, which is like, okay, just put it on it and it's not deep and the breadth is not there. So I really think that asking that took me by surprise, and now I know.
And your team was excited. We're like, whoa, you can do everything right from the start.
Right. And, yeah, so at the same time, because what it does is that it creates a little bit kind of like, okay, where do you start?
Right.
What's going on, almost like that. But I think it's really the best way. And thinking about it that early, implementing it right in the midst of everything while the construction people are going on and all that stuff. So now things kind of come together and you can really see, okay, yeah. So I was surprised. That's why a lot of businesses don't come out and ask, early on at that stage. They always come after the fact. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's very cool. And, one of the things that you helped us to get set up with, and you told me about it, I didn't know anything about this, but you said we're going to be like CMCC Level 2 controls, or we're going to have that. And I remember, I asked you, like, one of the things I want to be able to serve was also U.S. government with DOD, particularly. I want to be open to different companies. So maybe you can explain to us, like, why is that important and what it is?
Yeah, so I remember that day, it was several Zoom, calls, meeting, and, when I asked about, okay, what are you guys trying to do in terms of security? I kind of know a little bit of what you did or what you at the previous company, but I don't know all the detail, So when you then mention that we need security and things like that, I just right off the bat I really felt that an ideal security measure that you ought to have is the CMMC at least level 2, and what that means is that CMMC is a cybersecurity maturity certification. Level 1 is kind of like the very basic where you have 7 practice, 7 controls or so, very minimal. And then level 2, you have 37 controls, actually 121 controls with 37 practices. And what that means is that level 2 is actually aligned with the NIST framework 800-171, which is basically all the security controls and requirements that National Institute of Technology and Science have recommended in order to secure a company or a company that really wants to do work in the government space. So again, it's not peculiar. The NIST 800-171 is just a general standard or recommendation, right? So CMMC is built along that line for the DoD and the government, and other government agencies will in suit, put those controls in place or requirements in place. So when you came up and say, I need to make sure that our system is secure, and then if you also, as you mentioned, trying, to do some work with some very organization that I can't even be mentioning here, that means that you want to be on that level where you'll be able to, your security is pretty solid. So that's what CMMC is all about. So CMMC is basically cybersecurity maturity certification. It's now 3 levels: level 1, level 2, and level 3. Level 3 is it's a more advanced cybersecurity posture requirement that supports companies that are really high-end. In other words, to be able to protect against advanced persistent threat, APT. Oh, wow. So, and on that level 3 side, DoD is the one that assesses the company. Oh. On level 2, you put those controls in place, and then a third party, 3PAO, is going to be a company that comes in and then assess your level of implementation. Mm-hmm. So what we've done for you guys is basically putting that controls in place and making sure that we align those controls with 800.171, meeting the CMMC Level 2 requirement, so that as you guys continue to build your practice, you'll be able to be very competitive doing work with government, or even if you're doing work in the private industry. No one of your competitors will have the same level of that security requirements that you guys have implemented. So you pretty much they may have other things, but it's not the same standard. Wow. So I think that's really why we came up with that approach.
I see. I remember some of the things that we keep getting, some of the education and training.
Yeah.
I guess that's part of the requirement too.
Yes. Okay. So with the CMMC, so there is with the CMMC Level 2 at least, so there's access control, there's user management, there's different areas, and one of those areas is continuous monitoring and training as well. So when you bring a new staff member on board, technically before you give them the keys to start doing all these things, they want to go through the very end user security training, where they will at least get the basics of what are the threats out there these days, especially a company like you guys in the high end, lab testing and things like that. Technology is moving so fast that bringing a new person on board, it's good to give them that basic, security awareness training, so that when they get into their email or when they start using the computer, as you know, as we all know, every new employee or staff member wants to come out of the gate and be like, yes, I got this, right? But suppose somebody targeted them just at that time, and they click on a malicious email. That could be game over, Yeah. So having that continuous security training, it's always just giving them that, mind awareness that, and it helps the company as a whole. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I did it once. I did the whole program. I was like, you got to keep doing it. Oh, it's another year. You got to do it. I was like, what? And I was like, I guess it's part of the program. Like, you want to continually be aware.
Yeah. So there is an annual training, which is required on NIST, 801.7. There's an annual training. And then there is a continuous, I think quarterly is good. But if you have a very dynamic environment where, things are moving a lot, once a month, and again, it's one of those short, it's less than about 15 minutes. Yeah. And also one thing I like about our solution, if I could put a plug in there, is that it's very educational and it's also great. Entertaining.
Yeah, actually, I like it a lot.
Why?
Usually it's annoying. I got to watch this long, boring video and I'll do dishes or whatever. But it's actually pretty. Yeah. I like the training actually you provide for us. So it's very cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, nice. And so I guess just to conclude, I just want to thank you for joining my YouTube channel and talk a bit of what you've done, and really if anyone's looking for a diagnostic of their business, or they're looking to start their own business, Femi was awesome help, and someone that I trusted before, but even now in a business setting, having him set up the things for my company, I have even more respect for what you've done and everything and what you do. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries at all. It's a pleasure. Honestly, I feel like it's something that I hold very dearly. Not just across the board. It's like what we do is really who we are. Kind of. So we take that, not only me, this is just everyone across with my team, as we grow, as we are growing also, we're bringing in people Right now, we're going through this process where we want to bring A players on board, so that they will really help us, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we have engaged people that are excited about what we're doing, and then they can be excited in serving the customer, as well. So personally, for me, I think it's such an honor to be able to be part of you guys' journey.
Yeah.
So
Thanks so much, Femi, and thanks for the book.
Oh yeah,
I think you
and the book, you definitely will be getting the book today. I'm gonna sign it.
We'll add to our collection here.
Huh?
Add to our collection of
Yes,
books here.
exactly. So I'm gonna
And
sign
we'll get a
it.
signed copy.
Yeah, exactly. I brought it exactly. I'll write to the. I'm gonna write to the amazing things that we're gonna do together.
Awesome. Yeah, and thanks so much for joining this channel and just watching this, and hope it was educational for you and even entertaining. Hopefully, seeing our backstory, how we work together, and I just want to thank Femi again for just coming here and just really supporting my business and sharing what you do. So
you're welcome, Steve. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and we look forward to doing some more fun stuff together.
Great. Okay.
Awesome.
See everyone later.
See you guys.